morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. I'm excited to tell you that I'm close, very close to that 10,000 followers goal on Twitter that I recently announced, less than 100 away. So a huge thanks to all of you who have decided to recently follow me. I really appreciate it. Also, of course, all my original Twitter followers, you guys are awesome. And speaking of my original Twitter followers, I've seen that some of you actually getting the word out about my Twitter account and getting more followers so we can reach that 10,000 goal. So thanks to you guys as well. That's really awesome of you. And I do see anything that you tweet at me. I might not always respond or always favorite it, but I see it. And speaking of seeing your questions and comments, when I do reach 10,000 followers, as promised, I will begin a 24-hour period where you can ask me anything that you want that's not a personal question, those are the parameters, but anything else that you want, and I will answer you during that 24-hour period, each and every question, and I think it's now 140 characters or less. I've been saying 120, but I have 20 extra characters. Excellent. All right, so that's the announcement. I wanted to just let you guys know how that was coming because I appreciate that we're all working towards that goal together. But now, let's talk some movie news. All right, we have two actors who are trying to get into the comic book sphere, which is becoming really the place to be for any and all talent. We've seen people like Robert Redford, Glenn Close, Michael Douglas, and now Al Pacino has really thrown his hat into the ring, saying he would like to be asked to the Marvel dance. Now, he kind of did it, kind of in a more cool way a few weeks ago when he just talked about how great Guardians of the Galaxy was. But yesterday, MTV posted an interview with him that made the rounds on the internet where he outrightly said, "I would like to be in a Marvel movie." Very interesting to see someone campaigning like that, especially someone of Al Pacino's former caliber. And the reason I emphasize that that's his former caliber as a highly regarded actor, I mean, I love him in The Godfather. Many films Al Pacino has done are fantastic. But of course, today audiences know him more as a paycheck actor. When Robert De Niro was trying to make the transition, and even though some people might even say Robert De Niro today, Robert De Niro has been more successful reimagining himself in a more mainstream comedic role, but Al Pacino, not so much. Of course, he has the infamous Dunkachino moment where he did a fake commercial for Dunkin' Donuts and Jack and Jill. I have to admit, I thought it was kind of funny, but, at what cost to his overall image and career? So he's saying he wants to be in a Marvel film, and I just don't know what character I would even consider him as. I think maybe more in the DC universe because, DC has a lot of gangsters, the Falcones, etc., and, of course, Al Pacino has a great history with the gangster film from the Godfather movies. So maybe you could capitalize on that. But even then, DC just announced they don't want to have any humor in their films. They didn't really announce it, but it became quite the story when it was revealed that was internal policy. So Al Pacino is somewhat of a living joke these days, so I don't even know if he could be there. Now, I was kind of having fun with it, and I was like, well, maybe he could be MODOK, because who else could pull off such a ridiculous character but someone who's become a little bit of a ridiculous actor? But of course, that's Zola. Toby Jones is supposed to become MODOK, and you see them taking steps actually toward that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Captain America the Winter Soldier, much to many fans' delight, hardcore fans' delight, but I still wonder if MODOK can ever really truly exist seriously in any films that are supposed to be taken even somewhat seriously. But Al Pacino, I'm curious if you guys want to see him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, how do you see these gigs? Do you not want actors messing with your films, or do you feel that Marvel is so smart and if they find the right role for Pacino, they're a great way for redemption, second chances, or maybe even third chances with Pacino in terms of careers? So, but still, he's courting Marvel pretty hardly, and he's really putting himself out there on the line. I would advise him not to do it again. He's made his overture, and I think he doesn't want to embarrass himself. Although, again, that doesn't seem to be a huge concern for Al Pacino. Now, the other actor, or in this case actress, that's always a qualm. Should they all be called actors, actor, actress, whatever? Jessica Chastain. She's doing a lot of publicity for the disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. It's 3 films, Them, I reviewed Them, and then Him and Her will be coming out in October. Them comes out sometime in September. So it's a really big project. She's trying to really make a run for the awards circuit, but she keeps saying very mainstream commercial things in her interviews, which I don't know. I think it's going to win her some fans over over in the mainstream market, myself included. I think she's coming across very well in these interviews, much better than she does in the movie. But I question whether or not she might be rubbing the industry crowd and the awards crowd the wrong way. Because I don't know how enamored they are with Jessica Chastain saying she would absolutely love to be in a superhero movie. Now, as you might recall, she was up for the role of the scientist that eventually went to Rebecca Hall in Iron Man 3, but because of a scheduling conflict, she dropped out. Or maybe it wasn't just a scheduling conflict, because when she talked about wanting to be a superhero, Chastain made it very clear that she doesn't want to play, she said, the girlfriend, the daughter, etc. She doesn't want to be a sideline character. She wants to fight, which is very interesting. And I think an overall problem that female viewers are having with a lot of these movies as well. They don't want to be on the sidelines, although I will say Pepper Potts is a wonderful character, and I really like what Gwyneth Paltrow did with the role. I mean, I don't think she's going to be coming back, because recently Robert Downey Jr. said, I have no plans for Iron Man 4. I think he's solely in the Avengers business right now, although Pepper Potts could always show up in those movies as well. But Jessica Chastain said she would love to be a kick-ass superhero character. So immediately the internet was like, okay, here we go. That's your Medusa, Marvel, because everybody knows that Marvel's working very aggressively towards an Inhumans film. And that's the character, kind of like Tangled. She has prehensile hair, but red hair. So everybody, of course, thought of the red-headed characters. Mira, Aquaman's, girlfriend slash queen down in Atlantis, and she actually comes from a different, breed of water people. She can control the water actually telekinetically or telepathically. Interesting character. Jeff Johns and his predecessors in the New 52 Aquaman title have done a nice job with Mira. But I would say, when I reviewed The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, I talked about how small Jessica Chastain looks in that film and how tiny she just comes across. So I thought she'd make a great Poison Ivy. That character is supposed to be very small and delicate, yet tough as nails, or very thorny, I guess, if you want to go with the plant metaphor in her interior. And I think Jessica Chastain definitely fits that bill. So I think it's interesting that she too is really saying that she wants to be out there in a superhero role, and I'm curious to whether or not you guys want to see Jessica Chastain in a superhero film. Interestingly, also, some people said, well, at 37, she's too old to join the any comic book cinematic universe. And I really don't like that argument, and some people also voiced this as well, so I'm glad that I'm not the only one. But when you have Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo, very popular, by the way, in their roles, who are both, around 50, why couldn't someone like Jessica Chastain come in there? I'm very excited for Evangeline Lilly. I believe she's also in her 30s. I think she's going to be really great, and I think that as good a job as Scarlett Johansson is doing, and I hope Elizabeth Olsen also does a nice job, we don't want to just have a bunch of ingenues paired up with older actors for these superhero movies. We want to have diversity of gender, ethnicity, and also age. And I think that just makes it more fun for everyone. I think one of the great things about Ant-Man is that Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd are going to team up, and they're both considered older actors. I think Paul Rudd, in his late 40s, I believe, and Michael Douglas, of course, is older than that. So I think it's very exciting, and I think as long as the actor can pull it off, let them. And I think Jessica Chastain definitely has it in them. So my vote is for Poison Ivy, but I'm curious what you guys would like to see. All right, the third story of the day is about another actress who's trying to, keep her career going, but not through comic book movies, but her usual strategy, and that's Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon hasn't been so much in the public eye these days, really just in the tabloids with her husband. She got married to a powerful agent in Hollywood. Of course, she's Ryan Phillippe's ex, and she recently had a son, and she has 3 children actually, 2 boys and 1 girl, and this is her first child with this, believe his name is Jim Toth, this agent, and that's really where she's really gotten most of her attention. She's appeared in some small films like Mud. She had a very small role, and she has the upcoming Wild. The Jean-Marc Vallée, I believe is the name. I don't have it in front of me, but he's the director of Dallas Buyers Club, and that's her big Oscar contender. But she's doing a lot of other interesting things as well. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today. To give you an idea of how she's changing things up and whether or not we think she's on the right path. Well, on the one hand, the first thing I want to discuss is she's actually producing quite a few films. We talk about Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt being producers behind the scenes and not starring in those films, and I really applaud them for that. And Reese Witherspoon is doing the same. You might not know this. I didn't know it, but she's actually a producer on Gone Girl, a main producer on that film. And she was asked in a recent interview, why she didn't take the role that Rosamund Pike has. You know, Reese Witherspoon could play that. And she said that when David Fincher was brought on board, he said he had a very specific type of woman in mind to play that type of role. And it's the David Fincher woman. I mean, I think Rosamund Pike is very similar to Rooney Mara. I think that's just the look he likes. And you know, Rosamund Pike, I'm a fan of her work, so I'm excited to see what she does with this role. But I still think it's interesting that Reese Witherspoon found this material, produced it, and doesn't find herself in the film. Especially, you know, while Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are doing quite well at their careers, she could use a David Fincher movie on her resume. But she's, you know, she was the bigger person. She put the movie first before her own career. But we'll see if that was the right choice. And Rosamund Pike got the role. And Reese Witherspoon said something very interesting. And she said that she's excited for David Fincher to put a woman on screen who's never been there before. A type of woman, not Rosamund Pike, obviously. So that just piques my interest as to what Gone Girl could possibly be. I know the twist from the book because I'm a big cheater and I looked it up. But, you know, of course, as has been reported widely, the ending of the novel has been changed from the movie by the author herself, who wrote the screenplay. So we'll see how that all turns out. But so aside from producing, she's producing her own films as well and moving forward with them quite aggressively. There's this Wild movie. She also has that Ethiopian, I believe, African refugee movie. It's playing at Toronto, not really getting any attention. It's kind of her Blind Side film where she dyes her hair brown. Like, well, Sandra Bullock is a brunette, but, you know, she has that look. I guess Sandra Bullock went blonde for The Blind Side, and so she's trying that route. Not really working. So she's going to try something else that's old, you know, borrow something else, and that's to kind of do a repeat of her Walk the Line performance, which did win her the Oscar by playing Peggy Lee. Peggy Lee was a very famous singer, although perhaps not famous enough. You know, she didn't really, a lot of people feel, get the recognition she deserved for her career. But she's certainly well known. You probably know her as the voice of Peg in Lady and the Tramp, Peg the dog, and she also wrote the music for that film. But she was a very accomplished, not only singer, but songwriter, etc. And she also did some acting. Well, she looks actually like Reese Witherspoon. It's pretty strong casting, and Reese Witherspoon wants to play her. This has been something she's planned for quite some time. Nora Ephron wrote the screenplay, but apparently the film was sidelined when Nora Ephron tragically passed away. But it's picking up momentum again, and they found a director for Witherspoon, and that's Todd Haynes. Let me just make sure. Yeah, Todd Haynes, and he directed Far From Heaven. Now, I think what's very interesting about his style is that he's an awards-friendly director, but he also kind of copies the work of Douglas Sirk. Douglas Sirk is a really wonderful melodrama director, I believe German origin, but he directed some wonderful films. I think most famously Imitation of Life. Imitation of Life has been remade several times. Claudette Colbert was in the original version, black and white, very good. And then this one starred Lana Turner. It's a Technicolor movie. It's amazing. I actually have watched both several times. I really like the Imitation of Life story. It's fascinating, and I recommend you check out both versions. But I think that this kind of Technicolor Sudzer approach could work quite well for a Peggy Lee film. But one starring Reese Witherspoon, that's where I'm not so sure. Because as I said, she's already done this with Walk the Line, so I question whether or not she should follow in the same footsteps that she's taken before. I think she should really shake things up by doing something totally new. I think Wild is more in that area, but we'll see. Maybe she could transition into just being a producer, because I don't really know if audiences want to see Reese Witherspoon anymore. I think she had a moment there with Legally Blonde, etc., where she was doing quite well, but just something happened, and I don't know if she can rebound. But I'm curious, do you still have any interest in Reese Witherspoon as an actress? And what do you think of this new dynamic to her as a producer? All right, so those are the 3 news stories of the day, and the viewer question actually ties back into Jessica Chastain, because Alex Johnson has a question about Barbara Gordon, and come to think of it, I think Jessica Chastain could make quite a good Barbara Gordon as well. So let's get into his question first. So Alex says, "Hi Grace, you covered how DC was pushing Harley Quinn, and now he was spelled at Harlequin. It's Harley Quinn, and Alex says, and now there is news that they are shopping around a Supergirl television show." That's true. That was recently announced. I'll talk about that in a moment. And Alex continues saying, "I was wondering why they don't push Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. She is a great character. She is. I was hoping she would be in the Gotham TV show, but she is not even born yet. I was hoping the show would focus on Gordon and his family, like being a cop and raising kids in Gotham is like, even if Barbara and James Jr. were toddlers. Both characters, of course, become very interesting characters. James Jr., a controversial character, he becomes a murderer, a serial killer, in the comics at least. Something Scott Snyder has been exploring quite a bit through his work. But then Alex continues saying, that is more interesting to me than Mini Bruce and his villains, as the show has turned out to be. DC is also trying to turn her into Stephanie Brown with the reboot starting with issue 35 in the New 52. I feel like they are demoting her and don't seem to recognize her popularity or what a great character she is. I like her as Batgirl or some new ID. Oracle was good, but not what I want for her. I just wanted to know your thoughts about what DC is or not doing with Barbara Gordon. Great show, and thanks, smiley face. Great question, Alex. I'm a big Barbara Gordon fan as well, although I disagree with you. I think what happened to her is from transitioning from Batgirl to Oracle, and the message that's there that, of course, she's infamously shot by the Joker in The Killing Joke and paralyzed from the waist down, but she doesn't let that stop her crime-fighting career. She becomes a tech person and an informer and, kind of like the base of operations and a resource for all the costume vigilantes out there as Oracle. Great character, some great stories. She had her own long-running comic for quite some time. She eventually started her own superhero group, Birds of Prey. Really strong character. And I think Jessica Chastain could really do a good job with that. I think she'd be a great Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, and then I think she'd do a great job showing the emotional pain and transition through being shot by the Joker, going all the way to being Oracle. And I'm actually disappointed that DC undid the Oracle situation. They actually undid it. They didn't retcon it so it never happened. She's miraculously cured through some kind of comic book science, etc. And I think that, in real life, I guess sometimes they are cured, but there isn't a cure yet for paralysis, and I just think it's a bad message. I think the other one was much more empowering and inspirational, and there are a lot of female superheroes out there. I don't know how many more you need, but I do like your idea for the Gotham TV show, although if the show has a long run, maybe they will start to look into those other aspects, but that would be nice as well. We'll see. I'm very excited about Gotham, although hesitant. So I think Barbara Gordon, I haven't been reading her title. I actually don't like what Gail Simone ended up doing with her. I think she's a little too silly. But I'm curious, for those of you who don't know, Barbara Gordon is being changed as Batgirl to being more spunky and kind of patrolling the streets of Gotham's version of Brooklyn. Very interesting situation, although the costume they've designed for her is also very Brooklyn-y. It's very cool. It's got yellow Doc Martens, a leather coat instead of, a spandex outfit, and it looks really cool, and it's very practical. She has a cape, but it snaps off. I think that's very interesting, and so I will definitely be picking that up, even though I haven't been reading the title beforehand. But they got me to back into it, so that's successful right there. So I think that DC, I think we'll have to wait and see what they're doing with Barbara Gordon, but if they want to have some serious storylines that haven't been really explored in the movie so far, I think Barbara Gordon is a great candidate, and I've always thought that the Oracle storyline would be really cinematic and very great, and in the hands of the right actress like Jessica Chastain, really fascinating to watch, and so a great moment in comic book movie history if done right. But for female superheroes in general, I said there are quite a few. There are. But something that's becoming a big discussion is how many female superhero fans are there. This is something that really became a big story, not just with the Gamora merchandise thing that we talked about, but also with the Supergirl TV show. And people saying, there's all these popular TV shows that are coming up. We've got Arrow's been very successful. We had Smallville, and now, Birds of Prey was female-based, but didn't really last. But then now we have The Flash, Constantine, and Gotham, of course. All these television shows which focus on male characters. Although Gotham, I think, to be fair, is an ensemble cast which seems very diverse to me in multiple ways. But people are wondering, why don't you have a show about a female superhero? So DC is shopping around indeed a Supergirl show. It's not going to be the traditional Supergirl you're used to, but it will feature some kind of Supergirl. And we'll see if anybody picks it up. It's just in the development stage. It doesn't really have a home yet, or even a script, or has it been cast. It hasn't even reached the pilot stage, but they're working on it. So a big thing that people picked up on was, well, is there an audience for this? I think there is. I think there's not only a growing contingent of female fans for comic books and comic book movies, but people are talking about how many women are into gaming. It's a very big group, but this group has to become more vocal, and they actually have to watch these shows if they're going to do well. See these movies. You can't just exist. You have to let Hollywood know by your purchase power and viewership. So I'm curious. I think Supergirl has a very rocky track record. I think I would have preferred to see them pick someone else. Although, as many people are pointing out, Jessica Jones is getting a show over on Netflix, so that could be very interesting to see how that shakes out as well. I don't know if she'll have her superpowers. She should, but you know, that might focus largely on her private detective skills. But we'll see. I'm very curious. Does anybody want a Supergirl show? Would you watch it? Is this the character you would pick, even though she's already been explored on Smallville to some degree? And then also, what do you think of Jessica Chastain? Would she make a good, forget Poison Ivy, maybe the role for her is Batgirl. She'd be a very tiny Batgirl, though. She'd have to hop around a lot, I guess. Or they could always cheat the angles with the camera. So that's today's morning movie news. Thank you, Alex, for your question. I hope you enjoyed the answer. Everybody else, please write down your thoughts on today's top 3 stories and the viewer question. Anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching.